Another thing that we found to be a key to success is we do not buy into that outmoded concept that impulse adoptions are bad. Studies have proven that that's not true, and if you just think about it yourself, you know it's not true because, well, we sometimes see people doing things that we don't think are great. We also know that every human is capable of good impulses. People do positive, good, and noble things all the time. And so there's no reason to assume that the same is not true. I mean, how many of you, I bet every one of you has probably on impulse helped an animal, helped another person. So we shouldn't assume of others that they're not capable of these same kinds of positive impulses. We really, really encourage the public to interact with the animals. We invite them to touch them, in fact, and to spend time with them and to fall in love with them. The animals enjoy the attention, but there's a really important reason for doing it. Now, you can still find some very traditional folks who will tell you that you should be minimizing the public's contact with the animals, but I think that this is a mistake because humans being humans, we need to have personal contact in order to fall in love, in order for the bond to form. So you have to facilitate that and find a safe way to do that in your shelter. Keep in mind that when the animals are receiving touch and attention, that it's actually reducing their stress and thereby elevating their immune system, because stress is the enemy of your immune system, and you can counteract some of the negative effects by encouraging people to use hand sanitizer and having it all over the place and being sure that they're reminded by staff and volunteers to sanitize their hands between touching the animals. Now, the way the animals are housed makes a huge difference to our way of thinking. Cat housing should allow people to touch and interact with the cats. And let's see if I can get the pointer to work. This is the traditional cat housing that's in our shelter, and yes, we use it. But many more cats get adopted out of these showcase cages that we have placed out here, and the cat colonies. And I will talk about those in a second. We have, you heard Jan Scarlett talk in detail about how you need to be moving the animals through the shelter. And we have a very specific written protocol for how both dogs and cats move through our facility. And it's critically important to life-saving that it be timely. When you hit these bottlenecks, you are costing lives. So we are constantly analyzing and refining that process. Animals that have some issues may actually be fast-tracked into more advantageous settings, but basically the longer an animal has been there, the more individual attention for publicity they get, and the more advantageous their placement within the shelter becomes. Cat colony rooms, as I think Mike talked about very convincingly, are a great way to get cats adopted. People get to interact with them in a very natural way. We also find that they're a lot easier to clean and much healthier for the cats. The majority of cats that we adopt out in our shelter are adopted from the colony rooms or from the showcase cages, which are in very prominent and easy to touch locations. The poor cats that first come in and end up in the glass cages, they get adopted much less readily, and our shelter is only 4 years old, and that's what it was primarily built with. So I can't really encourage you enough to enable people to interact with these animals. This is a room that we converted, and you can see we actually created two more colony rooms in our shelter. This is a countertop that gets the cats up at just about this level. And this colony room in particular has more cats adopted than any of the others, even though 2 of the others actually have indoor-outdoor access. And the reason we feel is because of the shelving is right at the perfect, this countertop is right at the perfect height for people to interact with the cats. It just is really amazing. And the cost of converting the colonies is not, it does not have to be expensive. In fact, it's been really very, very cheap for us. We had some volunteers who created these structures. What they actually are is ladders, and they're fully sealed and painted. Very cheap, and it provides the cat vertical climbing space, which cats like. The more vertical space you have, the more animals you can house in a healthy manner in the room. Cats like getting up high. It gives them peace of mind and reduces their stress. And when I first got there, they had all these scratching posts, but those are disease traps, you know, with the carpeting and everything. We also use the Hide, Perch, and Go boxes. We were actually lucky to be selected as one of the test shelters for them, but we find they work especially well for shy and frightened cats. And I don't have time to go into it, but both Pet Finder and Petco Foundation have information on this program. They're great for cats. It really provides for a lot of their needs in terms of having a place to get up and a place to hide. For dogs, a critical aspect is getting them out of the kennels. We have pretty traditional kennels, so for us the emphasis of getting the dog out into the shelter, preferably wearing an Adopt Me vest so everyone knows he's looking for a home, is great for the dogs, and it facilitates that touch, that human interaction that you need to make a good adoption bond.